Today, very good news. We're talking about one of the creepiest, most effective classic horror movies of the classic 30s era. It's also something of a forgotten movie. That movie is 1935's Mad Love with Peter Lorre, directed by Karl Freund. It's one of the three main movie adaptations of Maurice Renard's, at the time, very famous novel, The Hans of Orlac. So, what's the story, very quickly? Well, this is the very famous story of the concert pianist. He's also a composer. He's young, he's married to a beautiful bride. She's an actress in this movie, but he has a horrible accident, a train accident, in fact, and his hands must be amputated. Ay, ay, ay. So the bride, in despair, she goes to see a brilliant doctor, and she begs him, please, doctor, can you do nothing? Is there nothing you can do? So he thinks about it, and he ends up grafting hands on Orlac, the famous pianist. Sadly, the hands are those of a murderer who was just guillotined that very day. And after a period of convalescence, Orlac, who has not been told the origin of his hands, he thinks they're still his own. He kind of grows slowly insane, especially because the hands revert to their old murdering ways. His piano practicing isn't going very well, but his knife throwing and the stabbing skills have improved drastically. So he's not too happy about that, and it gets even worse when it appears that the decapitated man comes back from the dead to visit him. So what's actually going on here? Well, I'll let you watch it. Though, actually, I will say this, okay? This will be a spoiler-filled video. And why? Because two reasons. First of all, we'll just make the video more enjoyable. I mean, I'm going to talk a little bit about the differences between the different versions, and especially why this is truly like the definitive version of Orlac's hands. So, but to tell you that I do need to spoil some important story beats, and also the truth is that it doesn't really matter. I mean, all of this, it's an old story. We've all kind of heard it a bunch of times, and everything I'm going to say is stuff really that you're likely to read in articles or movie encyclopedias, or just the captions between the photos you might see online. So it's all, I mean, I will spoil the movie, but I knew everything going in the movie, and I still really enjoyed it a lot. And in fact, I loved that one. This is a really, really, really good one, and if you haven't watched it, I mean, this one is really worth it. So okay, so I mentioned the three versions. So this is the one with Peter Lorre with the metal hands, okay? Because as it turns out, again, I'm spoiling it, but as it turns out, in all three versions, it's the same idea. Is that, okay, the decapitated man has not risen from the dead. It's a trick, okay? Somebody is playing poor old Orlac for a fool. And in this version, it's in fact the doctor. So the big difference here between the two other versions, a 1924 silent version with Conrad Veidt from Dr. Caligari's cabinet of Dr. Caligari. So, yeah, which is fantastic, okay? So the 1924 version, it's also like jaw-droppingly fantastic, though the story is still a bit better here for reasons I'll mention in a moment. There's also a 1960 version with Christopher Lee, which honestly is not as good, but has some cool stuff in it. as well, especially Mr. Lee himself. But anyway, what's the big difference between all these versions in terms of story mainly? Well, in both the 1924 version and the 1960 version, the main character is Orlac, the pianist, and the bad guy, again, spoilers, the bad guy, he's a con man, actually. He's not the same con man in 1924 and 1960, but he's a con man nonetheless. He has sensed that there was the possibility of a grift, you see, so he's trying to exploit the weakness of Orlac to get some of that sweet money. But so the bad guy is the con man, and the hero is the pianist, and the doctor is a minor character, and the wife is a secondary character. Whereas in this movie, they really, simplified the story, streamlined it, which is a lot more effective here. And the direction it takes is that the main characters actually are the doctor and the wife. So the bad guy and the bad guy. So the doctor is the bad guy here. Orlac, in fact, he's more or less a minor character in Orlac's hand in this version. And it works really, really well. I will tell you why in a moment. But let's start with the visuals, because I mentioned this is a classic horror movie, classic sci-fi, classic horror movie. And I mentioned it feels like one. This was directed by a German director who had fled, Nazi Germany. He was part of that wave, and the German directors are essentially what made Hollywood what it is, artistically speaking, that big wave of very, very, very good, visually striking, very atmospheric horror movies from the 30s. They owed a lot to the artistry of the European directors in general, and in particular their German ones. So the short version here is that this looks like an art house movie. This looks like a Murnau movie or a Fritz Lang movie. It has that level of visual, exuberantly well-made movie. So first of all, just the direction, the refinement of the way things are staged and blocked, and there's a lot of zooms, but made with dollies, actually, something which also Carpenter does quite well. So instead of zooming in a la Jess Franco, you have these very elegant dolly shots, which are really extremely effective. And even more than that, the sets, the lighting in general feels like, the most luscious 1920s German expressionist movie, or like Murnau's Sunrise. Again, it's on that level of just how beautiful and well shot, well lit, photographed it is. But also the sets are very expressionistic, and it's very smart, because usually, quite often in the expressionist movies, the almost Van Gogh sets, or Van Gogh, the very strange, dreamlike sets that we associate with movies like Caligari, with the crooked windows and stairs and the very strange depth perception and stuff like that, all that stuff. Well, usually it kind of denotes a sense of madness, of unease and anguish, that sort of thing. And here we have that, but in the scenes where it's relevant. So actually the clinic, here is Dr. Gogol, the Peter Lorre character, the mad doctor, he lives in his clinic, so he has this huge manor, a mansion, and the clinic is part of that. And yeah, it's all crooked steps and and strange non-Euclidean stairs and parallelepiped, window frames and all stuff like that. And like with the lighting again, like this is a true work of art. But again, it's only like you have elements of that in the city as well, like the city streets, and also there's a jewelry store where Orlac's stepfather works, and they have a very strained relationship. But anyway, so the jewelry store with the strained relationship, that has elements of expressionist set design. Same with the clinics, same with certain streets in the city. But in terms of Orlac's house, for instance, there's less of that. In the 1920s version, it's more expressionistic, his house, but here they keep that for the crazy parts of town, and it works quite well. So anyway, you get the idea here. Like the visuals are truly like off the chart brilliant. But that's not all. We have a superlative cast in this movie. So I mentioned Peter Lorre. He's the true star of this picture. Like he really is, at the end of the day, the main character of this movie. So obviously there are comparisons to be made with M, like the Fritz Lang movie, and it's very interesting to compare because he plays an evil, madman in both versions, but in M he's actually quite conflicted, which is what makes that movie so fascinating. One of the big reasons. Whereas here he's essentially a madman learning to embrace madness, and Peter Lorre as a creepy, crazy guy. He's quite good in those roles, yes. So this was he was born to play this anyway, and he's really excellent. Other characters like the lady, she's played by Frances Drake, who was in Invisible Array with Boris Karloff and Bela Lugosi, also a quite good movie. Should make a video on that in the not too distant future. She's really good, Frances Drake. I checked online, and eventually she got married, and her husband didn't want her to make any more movies. He wanted a stay-at-home wife, so she obliged. So, it's not my life. It's a shame because she's really quite good. Apparently, she spent most of her life as Fritz Lang's neighbor. They were next-door neighbors, good friends, actually. So, a bit of trivia. Anyway, she's pretty good in this. She's actually quite good in this. And Colin Clive is our Orlac. He's obviously Frankenstein from the James Whale version, and obviously I love him a lot, so it's very cool to see him here. The fact is that he's not the main character of the movie, and once you accept that, you do have there's almost like 7 stages of grief because he's not there all that much. He's a big part of the movie, but big parts like 20% of the movie. Like we see a lot of him. He has big scenes, but you can definitely tell that he's not the main focus. Like the wife and the doctor are the main focus. So the descent into madness of Orlac, which is truly like the main centerpiece of the story, certainly in the excellent 1924 silent version. Here it's more like a backdrop. It's more like what motivates his wife's distraught state, and it plays into the machinations of the Peter Lorre, Dr. Gogol, evil mad doctor. He's part of the plot, but he's not the main plot. He's a side character in this story. Final actor I will mention, Key Luke. So this is also super cool because He was also like a pretty big star actually in the 30s. He was mainly known for the Charlie Chan movies, which if you've never seen, they're a joy. They're really great. Okay, so especially like the Warner Oland versions. Eventually, Warner Oland, he died and he was replaced by I think Sidney Toler. And Sidney Toler, he does a good, okay job. Okay, he's okay. But Warner Oland is really, really, really good. And a big part of what he does is interact with number one son, Key Luke. Key Luke, who also, I believe, is the old guy in Gremlins, the old Chinese guy who sells the Mogwai. There you are, the same guy. So it's very cool to see him here. He's Dr. Wong. He plays Peter Lorre's assistant. So there's a general strangeness. There's an alcoholic old lady with a parrot. So there's some strange stuff like that in the movie. There's also a comic relief reporter. I did wonder if I liked that, and I did. I mean, I it's not my favorite stuff usually, like certainly not the comic relief, but here it actually, I'm not sure how much it improves the movie, but it doesn't harm it. And he's not just a comic relief character, the reporter. He's pretty important to the plot later on. So it kind of works. And the strange old lady who's always drunk with her parrot, that sort of oddness again is pretty frequent in a 1930s horror movie. It's not out of place. I forgot to mention that not only like the visuals are great, but there are some really striking sequences in the movie. So like the first of all, like the train accident, that's very impressive. In the 1920 versions as well, that was like a big maestria piece of the movie. In the 1920s version, you see the accident, if I recall correctly, and then you see the aftermath. So both of those are very impressive. Here, the accident occurs off screen, but you do see like the devastation afterwards. That's very good, that sequence. But yeah, the whole movie is filled with fantastic sequences. Like the beginning of the movie, it's set in a Grand Guignol type of theater where the wife of Orlac plays, and every night the doctor Gogol, Peter Lorre, comes to see her, and for like a year and a half he's been going every single day to watch her on the stage because he's in love with her, this creepy bald guy. And yeah, so it's a Grand Guignol theater / cabinet of horrors type of deal, with wax statues, including one of the Orlac girl, so Miss Orlac. And yeah, so I mentioned this because it starts with like 10-15 minutes of really strange, weird cabinet of horrors type of stuff, like a sideshow strangeness, and that really, really sets the tone for the movie, and it works so well. And creatively, once again, especially if you take into consideration just how beautiful the movie is and just how well shot it is, yeah, it's a once again it shows the artistry of the filmmakers, because they told themselves, okay, we're making a horror movie. What would amplify this supernatural, strange, dreamlike nightmare nature of the movie? And yeah, so okay, 15 minutes of Grand Guignol Cabinet of Horrors with expressionist lighting, that does the trick. And of course, like the most famous sequence of the movie, the presumed guillotined man comes back from the dead with his neck in a brace, because he can barely speak, of course, because his vocal cords have been sectioned, and but oh no, my head has been grafted back by Dr. Gogol, and he has his metal hands, of course, because now Orlac has the murderer's hands, and he's in this like like supremely strange, like cosmically weird get up with his hat, and his goggles, like his steampunk black goggles with his metal hands, and he's going on about like this strange stuff, and he's revealing the truth. Like he's lying actually, but no, I've been brought back from the dead, and that sequence is one of the best, one of the best classic horror movie sequences of all time. It is a true piece of anthology. I was actually looking forward to watching this movie for a long time. It took me a few years to track down a copy, and basically wanted to see this ever since I was 10 years old, when I saw the picture of Peter Lorre with the metal hands, and I watched it like 2 days ago, and it was even better than in all my wildest dreams. It's fantastic, okay? And this will bring me to like the core thing, which really brings this movie like to the next level compared to the other versions. Because in terms of the visuals here, I mentioned how good they are, but the thing is that the 1920s version is just as good. I mean, and we're blessed, really. We're very lucky because we have two versions of this movie shot in an expressionist style. Like the 1960s version is not so much, but those two versions, 24 and 35, are shot by German directors at the height of their powers in a full-blown expressionist style with the sets and the lighting, and they're master directors, and they have huge budgets and great cast and all that stuff. So they're wonderful. Like in terms of filmmaking, they're astounding pieces of art. However, okay, I mentioned the changes to the story. In the 1920s version and the 1960s version, I mentioned the con man, okay? And the thing is that in those versions, the evil doctor did not, in fact, graft the hands of a murderer, okay, on Orlac. He did, in fact, manage to save his hands. So there's a reveal at the end, and certainly like in the 1920s version, and all's well that ends well, and he regains, Orlac does, his piano skills, but it was all in his mind, you see, and so don't worry, you were just, panicking after your operation. You have your own hands. You were not grafted the hands of a murderer. There's no cop-out like that here, okay? He has a murderer's hands. And they are totally possessing him, essentially. Like, there are a couple of twists, which I will not mention, but generally speaking, when he's throwing, knives at people, including his stepfather, that's actually happening, okay? It's not this weird subconscious thing. No, his hands are truly evil and possessed, and it just makes it work a lot better. But the core thing also is that by switching the main character from, Orlac, who is going insane because of those hands, to the doctor, so we have a tale of two madnesses, if you like. So in one case you have maybe I guess a tale of maybe post-traumatic stress or something like that. Like, why does Orlac go insane? Well, because it has ultimately a form of mythological death, like psychological death. I mean, it resonates with us for poetic reasons, yes, but it does that a lot more here, where the true madness, the person really going insane, is actually Gogol, like the doctor. And the movie is called Mad Love. The mad love in question is his love. It's the doctor's love for the actress. He's clearly insane at the beginning. He's like bonkers and insane at the end. And this is a movie, I'm tempted once again to compare it to Recherche du temps perdu, which was ultimately, it's a big part of that, the Marcel Proust story is it's a tale of, love obsession, okay, which goes really, really, really bad. But this is like the nightmare version times 20,000 of that, and it just works immensely better, especially because it has some, overt mythological, overtones. Like he buys the statue, the wax statue, Gogol does, the statue of Orlac's wife, and he brings her in, and he starts going on about Pygmalion and the statue, so like the very famous Greek myth where a sculptor sculpts a beautiful statue and falls in love with her, and she becomes alive eventually. Okay, so this is actually a big theme of mad love. It's referenced a lot of times in the movie. And eventually, obviously, the Orlac wife, she ends up being forced to take the place of the statue. And you see that this does happen in movies, right? And on one level, you tell yourself, well, there's no way. I mean, I've seen wax statues. I'm sure you have as well. They're not that lifelike. If you've watched the Doctor Who photo with all the real doctors with Tom Baker as a wax statue, you can tell that's a wax statue. So it's not realistic, but it doesn't need to be. And this is a movie that understands the difference between needing to be realistic and being like mythologically, poetically true, which is what makes it so terrifying. Like, this is stuff from the deep psyche. This is true nightmare stuff. Like, this is truly mythological truth being expressed in this movie, and it's not telling you overtly what it's about, which it shouldn't. Okay, it's like what is actually going on in this movie. So yeah, the mad doctor, so he's both logic and madness, he's both healing and killing. So all these universal basic paradoxes, the thing with the statue and taking the place of the statue and all these doubles. So there's layers and layers and layers of deep psychological, psychology of the depths stuff, like Jungian stuff in this movie. And again, this is what truly makes it work. And it all works because the filmmakers, they had this intuition, obviously, evidently, that the real core story was that that relationship between the doctor and the wife, and it just works supremely well, and especially because you have again Peter Lorre. Peter Lorre, so he's like really good, and this is, I'm tempted to say, masterpiece. I am tempted very much to say masterpiece. It's definitely, again, I'll finish on this. I mean, this is an MGM movie, so it's not as well known as the Universal movies, but it has that feel, and because probably it's not a Universal movies, it doesn't end up, in the Universal movies box set. It's not as talked about nowadays for that sort of reasons. But when you rewatch it, you really, if you're a fan of those movies, you'll feel like rediscovering like your childhood treasures. Like, I watched all those movies, the Universal movies, as a kid, and I fell in love with them like as a 10-year-old. And that's the experience of watching this now. Like, I had never seen it, and I had that sense of wonder and rediscovery. So this is like wonderful. This is a fantastic movie, and everything about it is truly great. I didn't even, I forgot some stuff, and I could have gone on even longer. So go ahead, check it out. It's not that hard to find a copy. It's well worth it. This is like a super cool movie. If you want to support my work, Patreon is the way to go. Be forewarned that if you should you choose to support me on Patreon, that will automatically make you one of the coolest kids in the galaxy. So be forewarned. Okay, and that's it for me today. I hope you're doing fantastically well. Until next time, live long and prosper. May the force be with you, and keep watching the skies.